We live. We live. All right, we've got Callan and Jake
Hey, mate.
How you doing?
from Corrective Culture. Thanks for jumping on, boys. Thanks for having me at your house too.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
Beautiful little pad. I first reached out, maybe not reached out, but seen you guys through. I think it might have been Potsy. Potsy shared a story of you guys or whatever, and then I clicked on the link and I was like, fuck, who are these dudes and where the fuck are they been? I was like, and they're just in Sunny Coast, man. I was like, fuck. And then ever since then, everything that you guys do aligns with me, and that's what I do at home.
Sick.
Just not with patience and
Yep.
whatever. So
Yeah, it's amazing the circle that comes your way. Hey, like the fact that you're already on the path, and that everyone that comes around us is on the path. Like Jordan reaching out to us, for us for that space,
yeah,
and the universe just delivered it. You know what I mean?
100%, man. And I was like, man, these guys are just in Sunny Coast, like they're doing Paul Check shit. I'm like, I've been looking in Paul Check for like years, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how did you guys start out? Because are you new on the block or?
Yeah. I would say we're pretty new on the block. I mean, I've been living by Paul Chek's kind of whole thing for I reckon 10 years now. And I had a really bad back injury when I was younger, and that kind of led me on the path, led me on the physical path, and then it's gone more metaphysical now. But yeah, it's been a while, eh?
Yeah, like for me, I was doing jiu-jitsu, but I was very interested in the physical path, more so than the mental emotional. But then as soon as I delved in, then all that I've realized it's all just one thing. You know, we can't isolate the body everywhere. And I was doing jiu-jitsu, and Sharpie brought Jake in, and then I remember seeing Jake share something on Facebook. It was a video of Chek, and he was just talking about, it sounds culty, we're talking about one guy here, but it was just, it made sense to me, you know, and it was him talking about just meat, dairy, grains, things like that, and just from a real level-headed perspective. So talking about, you know, the meat's got to be organic, you know, that's what we've had for millions of years. When you change things ancestrally, things start to go wrong, you know, when you live far from the past. So now, you know, when it's all grain-fed and that, it inflames your body. And it just made sense to me. And he's like, you know, when I break down flesh, I replace it with flesh. You know, if I travel for the day, I'll go vegan. You know, there's no one way. And it just made sense. It wasn't like this study. It was like, oh, I can see this from a creation point of view, I guess, you know. And then Jake told me about his back injury and said, how many therapists did you see roughly in the end?
Oh, so many. So like osteos, physios, lower back specialists, numerous amounts of doctors, and I was a professional bodyboarder at the time. I was in Hawaii, and there was a really good guy over there called Mike Stewart. He's like the goat of bodyboarding. He's like I don't think he's like 10 times world champion, and then a body surfing like 15 times world champion as well. But he reached out to me and he's like, "Oh, you got this back problem," and I was really looking for someone. I was doing like nerve flossing and stuff like just to get out of this pain. And he goes, I went and saw Paul Chek. He goes, man, stop wasting your time. Meet someone in Australia who does Chek. So I was like, it was hard to find. But then I found this guy called Donald Carr, who's a Chek level 4. So he was probably the most qualified in Australia at the time. And within two and a half weeks, I was completely pain-free after being like in excruciating pain with sciatica, nerve pain, and just like so off balance. And so, you know, when you're in pain, when pain's your motivator, you just will find any way to get better. And I was just lucky I found Chek because they wanted to fuse my spine and all this stuff. And I was a 19-year-old kid wanting to reach my goals in life. And I had these so-called medical professionals telling me that I had to get my spine fused. And something deep in my heart said, don't do that. And I'm so glad I didn't, because it's led me on this path.
Fuck. How did you get the injury?
Well, when you're in like hyperextension constantly
what I was
bodyboarding,
thinking.
like and like I didn't have a really like my inner unit wasn't like recruiting properly, wasn't breathing right. My like lifestyle factors were all out of whack. I was a really like angry, kind of tempered kid. So there was just so much. It was diet, lifestyle factors, But yeah, the injury came about, I think, from like heaps of just abuse on the body from bodyboarding and just like that like kind of forward pressure in hyperextension, and then it just fully slipped. So I had I think it was like a grade 3 spondylolisthesis, L5S1, and yeah, it was brutal with bilateral pars defects, I think. So the outside of the vertebrae was fully snapped. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I haven't had an X-ray since then because it just feels fine, but I'm pretty sure it's just floating.
Yeah.
So my hamstrings and my lats have to be really strong.
Fuck that, bro. I remember when I was young, like I was always in the water, surf lifesaving, started booging, and then into surfing. But there's something about me, man, with like big waves. Like I've got held under a couple of times when I thought I was like, no, I'm going to charge this one. Fuck, what's the biggest wave you've caught?
I'd say about like 15
and
or
you,
20
do you get scared of that or no?
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, 100%. In WA, probably the biggest wave I caught was it was I reckon about 15 foot, but it was like just a big wipeout, and it was just like I had like one of those pressure vests on where you pull to have like the O2, the oxygen like expand, but didn't work. And I was just under for ages. But I guess experience overcomes fear.
Yeah.
It's like Callan jumping in a cage and having a fight. It's like the more you do it, and I know Colin told you that too, like you just got to have a bunch of fights and overcome that fear until it comes like second nature. I don't think the fear ever goes with things like that, but
yeah, the fear doesn't go, but you need to train the adrenaline dump out because you can't train that adrenaline. So that's what I noticed on especially my second fight, but I felt so calm, right? I went out there breathing, done all the breath work, right? All the shit you're meant to do. Just felt like on top of the world. Saw the other guy, I was like, yeah, I got it. I got it. And that's where like the body language comes in a lot too, So there's this whole posture matters, and that's what I tell my clients too with posture. Like if you stand tall and your shoulders are back, the world sees that. Like if I sit in front of you with my legs crossed all of a sudden, you know what I mean? That changes your whole outlook on me. But to have it open and sort of sitting here like this, I'm a different person, like immediately. So hitting it from a clinical point of view too, you gotta get mental emotional with that. Like if someone's really secluded, I can do all the stretching and postural work in the world, but they're just gonna go straight back to that pattern. But back to that adrenaline dump. Yeah, I walked in there calm as, and as soon as that bell rang, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we're not training anymore. We got these little gloves on. We're always training in 16 bigger gloves, and then we got these little MMA gloves on. I know that. I remember being in the first sort of. It started with like a grapple, and then he gave me like a smack to the head, and that's when I was like, fuck, this is real all of a sudden, primal, and then your eyes just go black, man, and that happens for a reason. You go sympathetic, so really, I'm meant to do a burst to either kill this dude with a knife in a natural environment or sprint, so that's what that adrenaline's for.
100%,
Yeah, I'm not meant to stay in there for 25 minutes and fight it out.
So you got to control that, eh?
Yeah, so you got to control that, and experience controls that. Because I was calm, but it was the most fatiguing thing. It's like half a round feels like I've done 5 rounds in the gym, and you can't train that in the gym. You just got to book lots of fights in, win them, lose them, and then all of a sudden, Justin Gaethje's lost a few fights, but he's fighting for a title right now. Because he's experienced. So came back to that.
Yeah, experience overcomes fear, eh?
Yeah, every time, man.
That's true. Yeah, I can relate to football actually, like even the same, but I probably still haven't mastered the adrenaline with footy, because sometimes with footy you go through waves, like someone's running at you, I'm going to fucking smash this dude. Like all your adrenaline, boom, like, oh, maybe I don't like this guy, I'm going to fucking hunt this guy, you know what I mean? And you're not really focusing on being calm, but you see the guys that are calm, they just fluently out there just mucking around, like
they're just doing the dance.
Yeah, for sure.
It's insane.
Yeah. And fear's a motivator too. Like you see, like a George St. Pierre, like he's saying every fight he's terrified, so it makes him train like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like Conor McGregor, he's confident as shit, but he didn't go that hard with Khabib. And that fear of losing really does motivate you. But maybe that's not your motivation. Maybe it's the drive for winning. So you got to figure out which one really drives you.
That's true, man. So were you mates before you started this up, or?
Not before we started Corrective Culture, yeah. But like I said, I met Jake there, and he told me about his back injury. So I was like, fuck, like, because I was going to go the physio route. So but there was something not. I was sort of being called. I was being called to the movement side of things, but I never really knew someone that had been fixed.
But you were telling me earlier that you were in
Yeah.
the mines, huh?
Yeah, so that's when I figured out that I want to do this, then I booked in for the
okay,
mines.
yep.
Yeah. So that was before. I only went to the mines to pay for all this, right?
Smart, man.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll go to the mines, or get a massive uni debt physio, and then go work in someone's clinic, and then all this stuff. But like so I went to a physio for my shoulder and lower back years ago, and I was recommended to her by a lot of people. She'd done it for like 20 something years, and I went there. Lovely lady, right? She got me up on the plumb line, said, "Oh yeah, you got too much curvature in your lumbar spine. Your shoulder's hypermobile. Maybe stretch this out, do that, but really you're all good. Just change your posture and make it like this." And she was a lovely lady, right? And I walked out of there thinking, what a great woman, but but really nothing happened, And I walked out of there thinking I was all good, but I wasn't, And then I really did a lot of my own research when he told me about his story, and I just looked deep into the Chek stuff, and it just all made sense to me from a mechanical point of view. And all right, like we're made of water, you know what I mean? Your discs in the spine are 75% water each one. So if you're dehydrated, they decompress, and that could be the difference between pain and not pain. Like you could have a nerve compression and feel no pain, but as soon as you're dehydrated, you'll feel that pain, So that's the difference that, a physio isn't going to ask you how much water you're drinking, and that's how important it is. That's just rudimentary. You go a lot deeper than that, but it's all these little things, It's all the little things. People are always looking for like one stretch or one exercise when it's not like that. And now I'm seeing that more, that I'm more focused on people's physiological load, or we are, than I am about their injury. Like when I'm doing an assessment on someone, I'm not looking for a diagnosis. I'm looking for what can't they do, if they can't rotate to the right, but they can rotate to the left, well, I got to get them rotating to the right, and what in their life is making them rotate to the left more than the right. We need to counter that. If one hamstring's tighter than the other, you got to balance. So everything's just about balance, yin and yang, with their sleep, with their thinking. Are they thinking too much? They're thinking too little. Like, they breathing too much? Is the heart rate too high, or is it too slow? And they're not doing enough. Not getting enough movement. And then you go into the movement. Are they moving enough for their dream, or whatever their dream is? Why are they doing it all? Like, you got to have that goal, and that's what it was with the Chek stuff. Like as soon as I knew that I wanted to do it, and it was actually a podcast that changed my whole life, and it was from him, Chek himself, and it was said, like, look with your eyes, listen to you with your ears, everything like that, but let your heart be your compass. And because I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, right? And as soon as I heard that, I was like, whoa, that was so profound and so easy, and so like one sentence changed my entire outbeing, because immediately I knew that I felt that here. Like I can look everywhere, look for the opportunity, play the prostitute archetype. You got to work for money, but you got to work. I'll work for money doing something I hate as long as it's in the path of something I love.
Yeah,
so as soon as I knew that the Chek thing was it, I went to the mines, hated it, but it was fine. I wasn't depressed doing it because I knew in the back of my mind, this is paying for that dream.
Bro, that's a good. That's courageous to do that shit, Because you could have stayed here and been like, I'll find another way to do it. I'm not fucking going to the mines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a path that I've been on and kind of maybe still on. Like, I just don't want to live my life. I don't even want to give my 6 months of my life out there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck, that's a big tick for you to even go there to do that sacrifice. But then,
and it goes quick, man. It went quick.
Yeah.
And
now look, you got fucking like 30 clients or something.
Yeah, now I'm booked out, and like I was saying to you before, like I nearly got a gas, like when I was out there, I nearly got a promotion to a gas job, which would have been, $3.5 grand a week, but working 12-hour days, right? You're dying slowly when I was doing it out there, because I was doing 12s already, but I felt myself dying slowly, like I was getting sick. Right? We don't get sick now. Like if I'm on top of the balance, my yin and yang, the workout and the work in, I keep that energy level up high. I feel like I can handle anything. But I was doing like night shift, getting sick. Every time I did night shift every few weeks, I'd feel like fluey after it. And I knew I was taxing my body heavily, but again, I knew it was fueling the dream. Yeah. And I see depression out there with so many people, man. I saw it, and they're like, what are they doing it for? And if it's a house, it's not fucking good enough, you know, because that as soon as you move into that house, you sit down, have your first night's dinner, you'll be stoked, and then you wake up in the morning, do that 2 more times, and then it's all back to normal again.
Yeah,
You
at
need a
the
bigger
cost
house.
of your heart.
Yeah, the cost of your heart.
How many people are doing that, bro, right now?
Oh, 99.5. Gnarly.
Yeah, I
So-
know, and it's not talked about often, man. It's not talked about. Like, I feel like the biggest thing when I have a client is like, what the fuck do you want to do in this life? Why are you wasting time doing shit you don't want to do for a paycheck that's not even that great? Like, and when they hear that, they go, fuck, like, what am I doing? What am I actually doing this for, you know? And it's just that question alone, it just triggers something that's just like, go and get what you want out of life, and you can have it. It's yours. And it's that easy. That choice is like, boom, it's done.
The Tony Robbins blueprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, how you're telling, like, if you're depressed, okay, what's the perfect blueprint for your life? What is it like? Okay, do I want to be able to study for an hour a day so I feel good about myself? Do I want to eat organic food, drink water, train 3 times a week, you know, care for my partner, rah, rah, rah. Whatever you're not doing in that blueprint, that's why you're depressed. You know, we all know what we got to do, but it's unless you write it down. And the amazing thing was, years before I did it, before I started really getting in the Chek, Jake sat me down, and it's something we learn in holistic lifestyle coaching. It's like the four doctor principles what we go by. So that's Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Movement, and Dr. Happiness. And you got to think, okay, so the Dr. Happiness, right? Where they're the foundation. So what makes me happy? Okay, write that down. What makes me happy? My Dr. Diet. Okay, well, you know, my organic food, water. What's going to fuel everything? And then the movement. How much movement do I need? Too little, too much? And what was the last one? Quiet.
Yeah.
Sleep, meditation. You know, painting, whatever, chilling out. And then you write your dream in the middle, and you say around these 4 doctors, what do I need to do to get to my dream? You know, and you know, around my diet, I knew I needed to eat organic food and do that. It was fucking hard because I was all my whole circle, you know, was eating shit. But I knew, like, if I'm gonna tell people to do this, I got to live it, and that's how I got the work. Because I lived it for a while before I started doing it. And as we wrote all the goals down, like Dr. Movement, you know, train this many times a week, study 1 hour. For the Dr. Quiet, then we realized that I pretty well did it subconsciously once we wrote it down for the next, you know, couple of years, and then got exactly where I wanted to be. And my dream was to get paid for Chek. And as soon as I got paid for Chek, that ended, and I felt something in my heart just like drop a little bit. Like it was like, fuck, you know, now what? And but then corrective culture come along, and now that's something that's so big. Because we truly want to change. It's so simple, but just change locally first, you know, and then change the world in a nice, like, simple way with all the foundations. And
it's just it's so broad. Hey, I think corrective culture is just so broad. There's so much to work with people on, and it can go in so many different directions. And I think that's really exciting to us.
Yeah, there's no end game. Like
There's so many directions.
Yeah, getting paid for Chek was the end game. I was like, fuck, I need something. Now we can do like a PDF of something, a stretching program, all this sort of stuff. That is just a service to the world. And
Podcast,
and just makes you feel good. You know, everyone's job is just a service to the world.
Right. Yeah. And back to what you said within that little message you said there, like when you wanted to get paid for being Chek. Then you got there, and then it's like, well, fuck. What now? Like, that's such a good lesson, because the gold's not in the end. Like, what's at the end, you know? It's the process of getting there. That's where you want to live, and that's where you get all your experience from, and that's the gold there, like how you move through that transition to that point, and you just explained it perfectly there.
Yeah, I feel we see that with people that start jiu-jitsu too.
Yeah.
Like, I see people...
That's probably why I stopped, man. You know what I mean? It's just like...
I see people start jiu-jitsu and they haven't had a direction, right? And again, it's not... You still need a profession that you want to serve the world. Like, that's a big part of your life, you know? But for jiu-jitsu, these people are coming in, you know, for an hour a day. They got this little tribe that's on the same sort of path, and there's a blue belt ahead of them, you know, or a purple belt. Or starting off a white belt, you know, you get stripes, but there's always something you work for, you know. And even when you get to a black belt, then you still got years and years of learning. You know, it never ends. You're constantly learning, constantly filling your mind and getting better and better. And the competitiveness is that goal, you know, like whether it's beating the guy next to you or just, you know, and it makes you feel safe walking around. Like, and that's what I feel is really important.
Fuck yeah.
Like, especially if you're, you know, if you're a mum listening to this right now and you got a kid, put her in jiu-jitsu, right? Because I wish I had that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That feeling of safety that would have stopped, you know, like you said, you used to lash out a lot more when you were younger. And
100%.
we'd all fight for like, just over fear, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, of the way we present ourselves as a male. You know, you don't want to show weakness. So
so behind anger is fear.
yeah.
And jiu-jitsu was just like the most humbling thing in the world for that, eh? Like,
Yeah.
and especially keep going back, man. Like, what, been doing it for 5 years now. I have. You've been doing it for close to 10. And every time you go back, you're like, fuck, I'm getting shitter.
Yeah.
Because everyone's getting better.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the most humbling thing to know, like we were talking about before, is it's the journey. Like, one day I'm going to be a black belt, I know that, but it's the journey. I'm a blue belt right now, and I've been a blue belt for like so long. But like, it's just sick.
He's a fucking good blue belt, though.
Because there's different grades and stuff that like, don't you have to kind of, to get a belt, you have to like show up a lot, be real present in the class, be like assertive and stuff. It's not just, oh, you're good at jiu-jitsu, here's the belts kind of thing, is it?
Yeah, well, it's good because not many martial arts have a way of, you get graded every day basically, because you know you're rolling every day. You get to spar every day. At the end of every class, you're rolling. So the blue belts will roll with the purples, and the white belts will roll with the black belts. It doesn't matter. But all of a sudden, you know, when a white belt starts holding his own with a few of the other blue belts, and you constantly see the progression. And if they are turning up and they're putting in the work, and again, you're getting humbled. So it's rare, very rare to see someone go use it in the street, because you got this confidence. Like, it's almost like a secret weapon. You feel like if they don't have it, then you've already won. Like, because you've felt it all the time. When someone new comes in the class, you've got them in 10 seconds. You know? So, but growing up, you know, boxing was big when we were all in high school and things like that. And you'd see the boxing club guys go punch on the weekend, you know, because they didn't have that same guidance. And just that good sparring every day without.
Yeah, what's up with that, you reckon? Like with boxing, like I know I used to do a lot of boxing, and you go to the gym, it's just not the same. Like, jiu-jitsu is so friendly, and so everyone, even the best at it, are so humble and like, come in. But then I went to boxing, and it was like, who's tougher and who, and like I've seen boxers, you know, like they're not going to last with a guy who does jiu-jitsu. You know, it's just not going to happen. Yeah, and unless they get a lucky shot quickly. But
yeah,
or they're not going to come over. A lot of boxers aren't going to come over and go, "Hey, mate, what's your name?" Like, hey,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
so
where
true.
jiu-jitsu is kind of like soft-spoken.
Yeah,
well,
it is.
And it all comes down really like, you know, it's from Brazil, but you know, you bow before you hop on the mats, and there's the belt order. It's like this, you know, you get your stripes. It's like you feel that energy in the room too, of like who's the higher belt and things like that. And it's weird, but it's just a sense of respect with each other, and the, you know, you shake hands before every roll. You know, you know, most clubs you bow when you hop on the mat and things like that, and just again, it comes down to the coaches. So I'm sure there's some sketchy jits clubs out there.
Yeah,
It's all
for sure.
Coach has to lead the way.
Yeah. You use roll every day?
Not lately because
because of COVID.
Because of COVID, but you know, we got the mats back there. We roll once in a while. As soon as it opens, we roll ideally about four times a week, and that's sort of enough. It's pretty hard on the body, really.
It's really hard to get the recovery in, and that's like we just finished this 4-week antifungal, anti-parasite cleanse, and the recovery I've noticed in my body, I reckon if I stick to the way I'm eating right now, I reckon I can probably train jiu-jitsu 4 times a week, and then I reckon do Chek, you know, 3 times a week, and be, you know, putting on muscle mass and burning my body out at jiu-jitsu as well.
Yeah.
Don't you reckon?
Yeah.
You just got to be fueling yourself so right, because jiu-jitsu is such an isolated strength, and your body gets so sore. It's like
so fucked after a session.
Yeah.
Like, even when I first started, I was only there for 2 months, but I come home and I was just like,
Yeah, man. Well, you're in this flex position where you're constantly using all your flexes, and you are extending, but it's not equal, you know. And it's unnatural. Every sport is unnatural, really. You know, we're meant to be throwing spears at animals, sprinting, lunging, squatting, surviving. Whatever you do out there, that's what we're meant to do. You know, that's what our bodies evolved to do.
For sure.
And like, you know, if I get a surfer, their back foot's always pronated. You know, that back foot's always going to be. They'll have like a little bunion on the toe, you know, so the body will start to downlay fascia on the toe, and that's the body's way of dealing with this back foot being leaning in, like on the toe the whole time, and counter rotational stuff. They're always turning one way, and then if you have a rotational balance one way, you're gonna have a side bend of the trunk out to the other, so you're gonna have this scoliosis thing going on, and so you got to counter that. It's fixable. It's fixable.
Yeah.
Fixed scoliosis plenty of times,
Yeah.
but they that's unnatural.
Yeah.
And you got to counter that. And that's what like I said with Chek, we counter whatever we're doing in the gym with the Chek, and we just know those imbalances that are happening and then work against it.
Someone doesn't just come in and be like, hey man, I just want to do this. It's like, no, like we're going to look at you from a whole and we're going to fix what we can to make you so you can go do what you want to do.
Have you seen the way assessment works with Chek?
I haven't seen full assessment. I have seen like little snippets,
like of Paul and stuff
photos
online and stuff like
just heaps of stuff like that. I've like, for me, man, I got into so I was playing football. Was down like a real partying scene. When I moved to Brisbane, and then I kind of got into introduced to psychedelics and kind of went on that path and done a bit of traveling. But like I was saying to you, Cal, before, if you want to like go down the psychedelic path of being, say, a medicine man or something like that, which is a kind of intention I kind of had after I've spent a couple of years doing it.
That's insane.
You're so far from the norm is what I'm saying. You can't live a normal life.
Nah. Yeah,
you have to pick one, and it's very hard to do that.
Have you heard of the dark night of the soul?
No.
So it's like when you're not yet tasting deeply enough of the spirit, and you're still not yet tasting deeply enough of the earth, and you're in the middle.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've felt that before. So I haven't done any psychedelics, but I've done a lot of meditation, been in some pretty deep places. But yeah, that dark night of the soul is a feeling of like not belonging. And because you get a taste of God, the universe, and then you come back to earth and you're like, where do I belong? You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm just coming out of it now, and I'm grounded in where I am in the world. But then I can also understand the metaphysical, and it's a good place to be. But the dark night of the soul was like really, really scary. And if for the listeners, if you're listening, look up Ram Dass, Dark Night of the Soul, and he has like an hour lecture on it, man. It's so
Oh, so is it Ram Dass?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Fuck,
He's
sick.
the man. So tell us more about your medicine journeys.
Oh, yeah. So I was doing that. And then, so I just couldn't relate. Like, it's like, do you want to have a family and these things? Do you still want to play sport? Do you blah, blah? Or do you want to go down this whole path here, which is got to devote yourself, and you pretty much got to pack up and do this. And I was like, sat on it for a bit, and then I was like, nah, fuck, lost myself again. Like, was just didn't know where the fuck I was. And now I feel kind of the same. Like I'm started the podcast up deeply in on Chek, deeply in on just being the best version of myself. Got a little one on the way, so like I just want to be someone there for them.
Yeah.
Not saying that I didn't have that, but more aware of what's going on in the world and with the bodies and internally. So that's kind of my mission now. But yeah, man, I've done a fair few medicine journeys over the time. Like spent 10 days in the Amazon, like sitting with tobacco and stuff like that.
Sick.
And I know Paul's real big on tobacco. Like I get a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he's a shaman too.
Yeah.
So he's done like 400 ayahuasca journeys or something.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's funny, man. When I first seen you, when I rocked up today, I just had this feeling like I could see, I almost like felt your energy straight away, and I could see that you had done a bunch of inner work, and that only comes from medicine and or meditation. Quieten the mind, get into that soul level and grow, and you almost can. There's no words needed. You can almost feel it from the person you're looking at. Sometimes, it's like it's not even look. It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
It's a comfortableness, like a sense of balance they got going on.
Yeah.
And that's, that like your rite of passage. Like that 10-day thing would have been gnarly. And a lot of people do. Like in cultural. They turn 14 and they put them on an ayahuasca journey. So imagine, could be without the guidance it'd be rough. But imagine knowing that back then. Like I've done DMT and things like that, and when I did DMT, it showed me that magic was real. I was like, whoa, like I didn't expect that, and that was a real unguided. Just at the boys when I was young, I was like, what's this shit,
Yeah.
And then did it and then blasted off, and it blew my mind because I was seeing things. I didn't have a pre-idea what was going to happen, and I saw things that is a common thing to see, that people like I saw this lady with like snakes in her hair, and she was like a female entity, and like talking to me like almost like it was nothing but love from her, but it was like a mother like slapping me on the head, like, what are you doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I knew what that meant. You know? It wasn't one thing, but I knew what that meant, and I was like, and I thought on that. It was like, it was like a dream, you know. And when I come out of it, I saw my body from above, and I could see everyone else in the room, and I could see what they were feeling too. I could see the way they were looking at me, because I was having like almost like a fit, like my eyes were in the back of my head, and I was chasing my arms. I had like lots of arms, and I was chasing. I couldn't find myself, but the amazing thing, the view from upside the room, man. I'm like still to this day dead certain I saw everything. You know, I could see myself right there, but I could also see the fear in like Mickey's, my mate's eyes looking at me like, oh, you know, he's having a fit sort of thing. And I, from the bird's eye view, landed in my body and then back into my eyes, and everyone was where they were, you know? And I was like, what was that? So that at a young age was like, showed me that there's something more going on. And then when I, met Jake, and he sort of really opened the world that, magic is real, you know, that it's not just, it's not so basic, and it's nice, you know, it's nice having that spiritual connection. And that's something, I feel like a lot of people are missing, especially the more academic someone's mind is, the more, like I have a friend who's very academic, but there's no spiritual connection there, and that's a quick path to some sort of depression, you know?
Yeah.
And it comes, so you need that sense of wonder, and that just comes from, like, I did a seminar where we went into the stage of the consciousness as a human in space, right? So when we were very first life forms was like jellyfish and worms, and they would have radial contraction, right? So there was no forward side to side movement didn't exist, right? Which is the trip. There was just this radial contraction of worms, and that's what our body is still on the inside, man, this radial contraction. So what our breathing is doing, radial contraction.
Yin and yang, hey.
And then the first vertebrates come along, and that was a fish with a spine, and they would use one side of the brain and contract it, the other side, and contract like this frontal plane motion. So there was still no transverse, no sagittal. And then the reptiles and the mammals come along, and they would have this sagittal plane. And then the primates, and they would have this transverse plane. And then, we've got all these planes. That's everything in our 3D knowledge. And then you're like, oh, what's next? And then time, a sense of time is next. So we would, they say arguably the first scientific thought was, there's tracks on the ground right there. If I follow these tracks in some certain amount of time, there's going to be my animal up there that I'm going to eat, and that's thinking about the future, which is, that's the next stage of evolution. And then from then, if you know what the future is, and you're going to die, so you need, what's happens when I die, we're the only animal that knows about death, and then we need to have a plan around that, because you'll just drive you crazy, and then sense of spirituality and religion, and then it grows and grows and grows, and fuck, here we go, all from a fucking jellyfish,
But like,
it's true.
Is it, you're just ignorant if you're not looking into that, This is your life. You're like your soul. You on a physical plane. This is your life. So if you're just like whatever, like you kind of,
you can't really live, can you? If you don't ever question the thought of what death actually is. A great book to read is the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and that really got me in touch with the dying process. And that was more like they explain the death process, and I really got to like sit there and meditate on it and feel what it was like to close your eyes, start to lose your eyesight, because I think you lose, if I can remember correctly, your eyesight or your hearing first. So that starts to go, then your eyes start to go. And they say your spirit stays around your body for a day and a half after you're gone. So it's a really intense process, but that the overcoming of the fear of death is what allows me to live fully now. So that book is insane, by the way. It's fucking nuts.
Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Yep.
Man, and Ram Dass, what was that?
Ram Dass. Well, he's got a lot of good stuff,
Yeah.
but The Dark Night of the Soul by Ram Dass on YouTube. But yeah, I've listened to about every lecture he's put out. I love it, and the guy who travelled with him for like 50 years, I can't remember his name right now, because he died recently, has just been putting out these episodes of like his best lectures. So I've just been going through them, and it's just mind blowing, man. That guy was
Timothy Leary?
No. He travelled. So when he went into India, so he did all the psychedelic stuff, and he then went to India after he realised that he could get so high. Like he locked himself in a house for, I think it was 4 weeks, and took acid every 4 hours. But he could get to God, what he would call God, and then he'd come back down. He goes, "Fuck, I want to stay there. I want to stay there." So he's like, "How do I do this?" So he went to India, and he met this guy called Maharaji, who Neen Karoli Baba, his name is, and he taught him how to meditate properly, and he realised he could stay in that state of bliss all the time through cultivating like chanting and like I mean his love everyone, tell the truth, I think is his thing that Maharaji gave him.
True, that's powerful.
Yeah, love everyone and tell the truth. So I, even as a mantra when I'm meditating, I do that on the breath in. I go, love everyone, and on the breath out, I go, tell the truth. And yeah, man, it helps. It's good.
I've been listening to East Forest and Ram Dass's album.
Oh, sick! Yeah, that's fucking some cool stuff.
That's
hey,
sick. That East Forest is crazy. I just play it every afternoon.
Yeah,
like,
there's something about that, eh?
What do you mean album? Like music?
Yeah, he does like So East Forest, he does music, but he's done like mushroom. I forget the album what it's called, but he made music for mushrooms. So when you're taking mushrooms, like I could do it in my lounge room at home, put the album on, and it runs for about 6 hours, and it takes you through this like beautiful journey of the mushroom. And he actually done the whole thing kind of on the mushrooms and stuff like that. And then he done a thing for Ram Dass when he passed away, and it's just little cool sayings that Ram Dass has and powerful quotes that he says, and he plays it over these cool beats that he's made and stuff, and it's just real powerful when you sit there, because you just hear Ram Dass come in like one ear out the other, and it's like real soothing.
So
That would be amazing, because like, you know, when you're on shrooms or LSD or something, you constantly get mini lessons. Like you might just be walking through and you see something so profound in like two people greeting, you know? Like I remember just seeing just a mother and a child and just feeling the love, and I was like, that's like just, you could just feel the love and how it's all just the same shit, you know? It's all just based around, everything's just trying to find love. Everyone's trying to find love, you know? Everyone deserves love, and even people's pain and their anger, it's all based down to lack of love, you know?
That's true, man. That just, I'm just thinking of that there. Like everyone is.
Yeah, it's like, you know, say you got a crazy ex-missus that you've, you know, left. Really, she just wants some love.
100%. And that's you know, like we blame everyone else, and I've fallen pretty bad into this, you know, over the last couple of months. But we blame everyone else for our shit, and we really have the power in ourselves to take ourselves out of it at any moment. And it's some of the best advice to give is that's if someone's a liar or a cheater, that's their karma. It's not yours. You are the person that can pull yourself out of that. It's
all choice.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to push on the podcast. Like when I have a lot of, with my guests, it's just kind of like, and even when I have me and my brother sit down and just ramble on me and him, and it's like about just make the choice. Like all you got to do is just think like, okay, I'm going to do this, write it down, and then go do it. Like that's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Is
the
make
action,
the choice.
hey?
Yeah, make the choice and action the choice. Because without action,
exactly.
And that's,
you know?
that's so like, that's really driven in us with the Chek thing. Like someone sees me for neck pain, I'm asking them about what their purpose is, you know? Because it's like neck pain is so related to throat and communication and things like that if we go into the chakras. But, you know, you come at it from all angles. You hit it from there, but you also hit it structurally. And, you know, if this is tight, let's stretch that and stabilize here. But so I had a guy yesterday, you know, and he's seen me for getting his body out of whack, but I can see in his eyes, you know, he needs a lot more than that. And I can see he doesn't have guidance, and that's what he's really seen me for. But he doesn't also want me to sit down and say, listen, you know, like a therapy session. You know? So I, you know, you got to hit it from like I actually tell him like my story, but I just bring it up like conversation, like I did this, you know, we wrote down, and then man, as soon as I realized what I wanted to do, life was easy. You know, no matter what hell I'm going through, as long as I know that's over there and I'm going towards that, it's all good. You know, I can do it for 5 years if I want to, but as long as it's still coming. And so, you know, he's talking about doing landscaping, but again, he's in the sort of rut of like this circle, you know, smoking a lot of weed, that sort of, which, you know, is fine, but you know, there's a level when you have too much, you do fuck all. You know? And you know, I know that.
you can abuse anything.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Sure.
So, but talking about landscaping, I was like, because I want him eating organic, right? And he's gone to the markets now. He's making bone broth, right? First, like I want his raw materials of his spine, what his tissues made out of, strong, so then he can handle the training I'm going to put him through, and his sleep and all that sort of stuff. So I'm like, you know, what about, you know, I can see you love horticulture, you love the soil health and things like that, but you know, he's not doing any of that because he got done drink driving doing his horticultural course. So you know, he's like, oh, whatever. So I'm like, all right, well, you know, what do you need to do that? You need to call this place up and book it in for this time. All right, let's do it. You know. So he's coming next week and we're doing that. We're doing that together. But man, I could see it.
That's cool, man.
Immediately, his whole energy shifted. Immediately, I could see like he was down here. His eyes were a little bit lower. You know, and on the spot, he's like, yeah, you know what? Fuck, that's all I got to do. I just got to book it in, even if it's 3 months down the line. At least I'm still doing it, and then that whole next 3 months is cruisy because I know exactly what I'm doing. Okay, here's a Rudolf Steiner book about biodynamic farming. You know,
I'm reading that. I've read that. Yeah.
yeah, nice.
How good is that, man?
So
Well,
like,
it's fucking hard for me sometimes because I like can't articulate some of the sentences he tries because I think it's from a lecture, just into a book.
yeah.
And it's kind of like you're reading a bit and.
Oh, he's
Man,
one of the
that
most
goes
profound
fucking
guys
deep.
ever.
That, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
so like for him,
Yeah.
man, that one book, man. There's a
Yeah.
lot of wisdom in that one book, and that's what I've learnt with this stuff. Is like I was going to go the physio route, but then I didn't want to do years of uni and then learning shit that I know I'm never going to use. Like I just want to know what do I need to know to help people, and not let your schooling get in the way of your education because that's really hard. Like most of the people that do the Chek stuff, like when I'm in there, they're already a physio, already a chiro, and they have to unlearn everything what they're taught. And I'm watching them do it, and it's this internal battle. But you can see, like when we're shown, oh, this is why that's not working, you know, or this, it's, you know, you're giving an 80-year-old, you're giving a 20-year-old the same program you're giving an 80-year-old. Like, that's what the book says. And if this doesn't work, then what do you do? You know, and that's what we learned. That every case is a completely open book. So I've seen things structurally from a plumb line. Or like the way they stand, like, oh, okay, that hamstring's probably short and tight. There's long and weak, rah, rah, rah. But then when I get them on the table, it's not the case, you know. And most people, their whole program will be based just around what the eyes see. But if you're not assessing, you're guessing. And that's why the assessment process is so big in the Chek stuff, man. You get the high levels, it's like a 4 or 5 hour assessment. So Donald actually had a client that, you know, he tests the hearing. You know, you go into he's seeing me for neck pain, so he tests his hearing. But after he'd done years of everything else, wondering why does my neck keep fucking out, okay? I've done all this neck stabilization work. So Donald tested his hearing, found out his hearing in his left ear was better than his right. And this guy, not even knowing, every time he spoke to someone, he did this. Just turned his head to the right a little bit, constantly, doing these little micro movements all day long, okay? So he just made him aware of that, hearing aid, completely went away, you know? With the integration of the work. So it's like the same thing with breathing. If someone's breathing into their chest, man, that's using, you're not meant to breathe into your chest unless you need that much air, unless you're running or getting, you know, high energy output. It's meant to be a nice, calm, diaphragmatic breath, you know, so it pushes down your organs, it massages the digestive system, it just moves the whole area, okay? Like, especially if you have a girl and you have bad period pain, you need to get your breathing sorted ASAP, you know? Because I've had a girl come in, had severe period pain, just got her laying on a roller and breathing, moving down there, and it just disappeared on the spot, you know? I've had people message me because I posted that, and they're like, wow, it worked, right? Won't work for everyone, you know? That was her case.
Yeah, everyone's unique.
Yeah, but
unique.
But it was like, there's always like using your intuition with it, you know, and giving someone the program that you feel like they're going to do, because the best program is what they're going to do, you know. So I might want to give someone 10 stretches when I do the whole body. I'm like, fuck, this person's just tight everywhere, you know. But I can feel that their energy, that they're only going to give me 15 minutes. So I give them, you know, the 5 most important ones. Yeah. Then like get that to a space and then work from there. And then usually people start to get it pretty addicted when they feel their body, their pain go away, you know.
100%. And so, Cal, you're obviously doing your work here is full time, yeah?
Yeah.
Like you got no other side hobby?
No.
Oh, hobby,
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
And so Jake, you got the camera, and you also
Yeah.
taking clients as well,
Yeah, and a lifeguard as well.
and lifeguard.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm in a pretty unique stage, man, because I didn't have a job till I was 28. I was getting paid to bodyboard. So when I turned 28, I just was like, my sponsor like offered me like 10 grand for a year, and I was like, fuck this, I'm out. And I was just like, God, I got to do something. So lifeguarding was the easiest option for me then, was just to go into that. And then once I got some stability and safety, so my tribal association was good, my safety was sorted, I had a little bit of money coming in, I could pay rent and eat good. And from then I was like, okay, now let's create a big dream. And a big dream for me has always been Chek. I've been studying it a long time. But I didn't believe in myself fully, if I'm being honest. And film was the easier option of Chek. So I was like, okay, all right, I know how to film. I've done it my whole life. I love it. So I turned that into a job. And then I was like, fuck, I'm ready now. So now I'm doing Chek as well. And I owe a lot of that to Callan. Callan's helped me a lot. Some of the advice that I gave him, I should have taken myself. And I've seen how much he's progressed so fastly with it. And we just help each other. It's a really good thing. Corrective
That's
culture.
sick,
We're always supporting each other, helping each other. But yeah.
And so you're still studying now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
how long ago did you start studying?
Well, I did I
Study
was
for life, man.
Yeah,
it
like
never stops.
fuck, like
you just keep
I
studying.
mean 19 was when I was introduced to
Introduced,
Chek. And saw
But
Donald for like 3 years.
When did you pull the trigger on the money? Like, okay, I'm paying for this. I'm doing this now.
When I did a traineeship through Jan Carton, who is Chek Australia.
Yeah.
So she's on the Gold Coast. She's unbelievable. Like she taught me more about the metaphysical than anyone ever. She's my guru, I would say. I feel like she always talks to me, man, without even talking to me.
Yeah.
I have her in my head all the time. But yeah, I did a traineeship with her for a year and a half, and I think that cost about 10 grand, but it was the best thing I've ever done. And she like took me through all the basics and more. And yeah, I've just got a few things I got to sit through Chek, but that's probably when I first started. And I did HLC 2 with Paul Chek himself in Newcastle, which was sick. That was just crazy, man. That was, yeah. So yeah, it was 7 days with him, man. He taught us how to like connect to your soul, and fuck, he just like the craziest story. You know, this is what made me believe in magic. Was one of the very first things he said to me, because this guy was like an idol to me, right? One of the very first things he said to me, he goes, something's telling me, my soul's telling me to tell you to read this book, and it was called Alan Watts' The Wisdom of Insecurity, and I had already ordered the book.
Really?
Yeah.
It was coming in the mail, man.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? But not only that, man, it was on the 5th day, and the day before I had this thing where we connect to the soul, and you get shown the mirror. I was very aware that I was going to be shown the mirror on this HLC 2 with Paul. But it came at me from a completely different stage. So I was with this girl, and it wasn't right. I feel it in my heart, but he connected to me. He got me to connect to my soul, or everyone in the class, and it gave me the clearest no of being in this relationship. So I was just down there fucking like thinking I'm in love. Oh, what am I going to do with this chick? And then I got this clear no from my soul, and I went back and I journaled it, and I just couldn't stop crying, man. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, has every decision in my life been through my ego? And I was connected to my heart and my soul for the first time. And yeah, dude, the next day he took one look at me and come over to me, and he gave me a hug and just said, I'm proud of you, buddy. And I was just like, I just wanted to cry. I was just like, what the fuck? Is this guy a fucking human or what? Like it was the perfect thing that I needed. And I knew he went out of his way to do it because he knew that I was taking a step into following my heart. I knew he could feel that. And it was just, it was insane. It was insane.
That's crazy, bro. I was actually listening to him the other day. He said some person reached out to him, and he said that he was struggling with something that he was struggling with, and he said, yeah, like this person needs to connect to his soul. He said, you just come to me, I'll show you how you connect to your soul in 20 minutes.
Yeah, fucking no.
And it's like, there it is, there.
Yeah, well, there's actually sort of a little drill you can do, and if you're listening at home, you can sort of do it and try your best, but you sort of want to get into a nice state, like slow breathing, slow yourself down for a while, close your eyes, and then you go, dear soul, what does it feel like when you say yes to me? And then if you're in tune, you'll get an inner feeling, right? And it's the same feeling I got exact same feeling I got when I knew I wanted to study this and do it. And it's like the moment, it was like, this is what I'm doing. That's that feeling. Yes, you know? Yes. Do I say yes to this opportunity? Yes. And then you say, dear soul, what does it feel like when you say no to me? You know? And immediately I was like, ooh,
True,
you know, like that feeling, you know, don't walk down that alley. I shouldn't be hanging out here. I don't want to, you know, it's the circle around me right now is telling me, like, my inner voice is saying no, like, you know, you got to mix some shit up. And that's powerful, you know. So if you can really get in tune and try and do that, and then use that same feeling to guide you in life, it's fucking crazy, man. It's a secret weapon. It's like you got this little arrow pointing everywhere at all times.
Compass, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Internal
Let your heart be your compass.
100%.
Yeah. So that really is what I use for everything, and I use it with my clients too. Like so I had this client I was telling you about her, and I won't say her name, but she had a blood, well, what I think, she had a blood clot in the lumbar spine, right? So she was at work one day, small girl, anxious, you know, she's about 40 kilos, like really small. She was premature when she was born, and she doesn't think much of herself. And she was at work, and then all of a sudden her feet started going numb, and then it went up numb to her knees, then to her hip, and then she was just paralyzed from the hips down. And she went to the hospital. Whole team of professionals around her were like, we test you for MS, we test you for this. You got disc bulges in your lumbar spine, but it's probably not that, you know? Disc bulges in your cervical spine, but it's probably not that. And 100% it's a disc bulge in a lumbar spine, right? And she had this whole team of people that had done, like, you know, 30 years of experience, and they were like, we don't know what's wrong with you. The communication towards her is like that. So it's like a parent-child communication instead of like a, you know, this is the way it is. And then she's like, they're like, you might never be able to walk again, like properly. Like by then she was walking like up, but her foot was inverted, pigeon-toed, you know, she was dragging, doing a big lean. You can see the before and after on the Corrective Culture Instagram and my Instagram, Callan Krause. But she was broken, right? Because they said, we don't know, you know? And they told her she had things like, oh, you got thick blood, so a blood clot's an option, but, you know, probably not. No one asked her if she drank water. They just said, you got thick blood, right? And I got her in here. She was like, so, like, how much water do you drink? She's like, oh, like maybe a glass a day, maybe half a glass a day, right? So 101, right? When you're dehydrated, your blood volume just thickens. Like, it's just like a fact. You don't even have to be a fucking scientist to know that, right? You're made of water. Your blood's made of water. The whole body's made of water. If you're not drinking good water, that matters compared to the next man, you know? If I got a good alkaline water with minerals in it, you know, that's going to affect my biology, my physiology. Like, it's going to change my whole body. And so I got her in there, and just giving, I think the healing was just telling her, like, oh, wait, so you're not doing that. You're sleeping 3 hours a night. You're anxious, you know, you look at your breathing rate, you know, your whole posture is like this. You got a flat lower back. You got a, you know, compressed vertebrae that's not centralized. We can do so much. We can do so much. Look how exciting is this, you know? And she was like, oh yeah, right, you know? And she, you know, she walked out of there just her whole energy had lifted, you know? And then it was amazing because I feel like, you know, you find your gurus, and you told me this, you find your gurus at the right time. So literally, I think it was the day before I saw her, I got into Gabor Mate's work, and he said he's reading Gabor's book right now.
I'm reading Hold On To Your Kids, because like I said, I got a little one on the way.
Oh,
so
sick.
like, you know,
Awesome, man.
He's
So-
great.
into this, yeah.
And if you're listening at home, get into Gabor Mate's work. But and she come in the next week. I gave her a exercise that simulates walking on the ground. Okay, because the physios and the specialists gave her deep squats and lunges. She couldn't even like step up a step, and she was like, "I can't do any of this." And they were like, "You need to do it." And that would literally, that deep squat would have been the worst thing for her spine. So it blows my mind still. But she just had a gentle laying on the ground movement, Feldenkrais, that shifts the hip forward and back. So at the start, her hip couldn't even move. So within the one session, it got range of motion. And then she did it every day for a week, and then she'd come in walking, you know, the next week, and like completely brought that awareness back, you know, brought cold showers into her, like things that you can give people advice that you know will help, but people feel like it's out their scope of their profession, you know. So like most specialists aren't going to tell someone to have a cold shower, you know, but I need that sense hitting her skin and stimulating that area again that's all numb. Her whole left side was numb, you know, damaged her bladder. the sleep, the water, all the basic stuff, man. It was all just so basic, and that's what did it, you know. And that's people need to care more about